There we go. All good. Let's do it, man.
Sweet. Dave Atkinson, Drumeo Community Manager Extraordinaire.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Dave Atkinson, and welcome to the double bass portion of FreeDrumLessons.com.
This is a proper David's percussion discussion with two Davids.
I was just going to say, this is the real David's percussion discussion. Let's discuss all the percussion we can, man. Let's do it.
Cool.
I love it.
Give me a little intro to your kind of drumming journey, because I know from previous things that I've watched that you started drumming around age 12.
Yes. Yeah, so, I mean, my story's out there quite a bit. I'll give you a brief summary. I started drumming, like you said, around 12 years old, and I was going to church every Sunday back in those days, and I always wanted to do more, be more a part of what was going on, and I always looked at the worship team, and I'm like, man, I love music, and I just want to be a part of that somehow. But the guitarist's fingers were so far away, I couldn't tell what they were doing. The piano player always was behind a piano, so I couldn't see what their fingers were doing. Same with the bass. But the drums, it was like I can see exactly what the drummer was doing from where I was sitting, and I'm like, well, that looks easy. And it wasn't. It wasn't even close. But I think that was what got me, was I can see the motions and I can visually and see exactly what the drummer was doing and hear the result of that right away. So I just start tapping on the pews. Next thing I know, I was asking my mom if I can stay a little bit later after church and mess around on the kit. And eventually, some of the worship team at that time noticed that I showed interest in drums, so they really encouraged me to keep playing because they needed drummers on Sunday mornings. And then it kind of evolved into me playing on Sunday mornings. And the funny thing is I started with an acoustic kit on the stage. Then one day I came and there was a plexiglass shield, like everyone knows. And then one day there was an electronic kit there. So I learned a lot of dynamic lessons they were very polite about it. But anyway, so I started playing in my church, and I realized this is something I really want to do. And what I really liked about it was it wasn't ever a chore to practice, especially when I was young. Granted, we didn't have TikTok and Instagram grabbing our attention like kids do these days, but I just would get home from school and I would just play for hours and hours and hours. Found a couple friends in school, wanted to have a band. I was also going to, and this is how I met Jared too, I was going to a Sunday night worship session called Doxa, and Jared was the drummer for that band. And in '97 was when I first met Jared, and I remember sitting in the back and I'm like, man, this drummer's really, really good. So I kept inching my way forward and forward and forward, finally front of the stage, and people think I'm up there, worshiping, but I'm really just staring at the drummer. I'm like, what is this guy doing? Long story short, I ended up chatting with him a bit. We became friends, and here I am today, I guess, to make a long story short.
So you kind of met Jared, you were friends for a while. At what point did he invite you to be part of what is now Drumeo? So
back in 2005, I believe, we were on the old MSN Messenger, if you remember that old platform, and we would chat all the time back and forth. And I can't remember how it got on the topic of drumming. I think he had just finished filming like the one-handed drum roll, which if anyone or old school fans of Railroad Media, you'll know what that is. And I messaged him saying, oh man, great product, very cool idea. And he's like, do you want to come over and work with us? Because he was just at that stage where he realized that there could be a business here, a business opportunity in the drum space. I mean, back then there was Pearl Forums, there was Drummer World, there was Drum Bum, Jack Bennett's I Can Play Drums, Hear and Play. Like there was a couple of companies that were, or even people that were starting to kind of build an online space for drummers. And I guess Jared realized that there was something there and he wanted to get some help, and he knew I was a drummer. He knew me quite well from the days of Doxa, and just like, I mean, we also hung out outside of that. He gave me a couple drum lessons, and I bought a couple kits from him and stuff. So we knew each other quite well. And so he just gave me the offer on MSN. I think it was like, I was working a pretty good job at the time. I had like seniority, I had a union job, I had good wage, all the benefits and everything. And I was like 21 years old. He's like, yeah, you want to just quit that and give this a try, $8 an hour, I think it was. And I was young, I had no responsibility, so I did it. And that's kind of how that came to be. And I guess the rest is history. I've been working there with him now 15, 16 years, I think.
Wow. And what's that journey been like? How has that developed from when you started? Because I looked back through my old emails.
Yeah.
And I first came across FreeDrumLessons.com back in around 2008.
Oh, so you're one of the originals then.
Yeah, I remember you remember those little GIF badges that you used to have on websites back in the day? In the late 90s? I actually did one of those little GIFs for Free Drum Lessons and sent it in, I think, to Jared or somebody. Or
no way.
So how has it changed from then? Like, is it unrecognizable, or are there still kind of roots of that still in Drumeo now?
I mean, it kind of all blurs together, but it's definitely changed dramatically in terms of basically, well, our own team has changed. We've all grown and matured, and in a good way, business-wise and all that. But when we first started, I mean, there wasn't really a role for anyone. There was me, Jared's original business partner. His name was Rick, and Rick's brother, Jordan. So there was the four of us, and we're all in this little office. This is right when we moved out of Jared's basement. We rented this office above a bread garden, which was great because it always smelled like fresh baked, like cinnamon buns and all that. But we didn't really have any roles. Like Jordan, Rick's brother, he was like a video guy. He was editing all the videos together, and I was kind of like the all-purpose dude at the time because we just didn't have any idea what we were doing. I was writing articles for websites. We had like 400 domains. I was writing the same article over and over again, Molder Method tips, and for SEO, I was doing all the customer support. I was shipping out packs. I actually, when I first started, I was the one who was basically taking the order or calling to make a sale on the phone, entering in their data, printing out the shipping label, packaging the DVD, putting the label on the package, driving across the US border to the post office. So yeah, as we grew, more people came on board, and we started to figure out, okay, well, where does everyone fit in here, and what is their best skill that can really help Drumeo out? And I think I even did video editing for a while too. Like I did a couple trailers. I learned graphics. I did graphic design for some of our old DVD packs and books. And it's kind of evolved. I did some phone sales, and then in about, well, I won't jump ahead too much. We realized DVDs were kind of going the way of the dinosaur. So we tried something experimental, which was to create Free Drum Lessons, which is where you came in. And I think a lot of our fans, current fans, know us from, well, maybe not current fans, but a lot of our fans know us from Free Drum Lesson days. And it was a big risk because the internet was in its infancy. There wasn't any YouTube at the time, I believe. I think we used Howcast or something like that to host the videos. Maybe not Howcast, but there was another one. I can't remember who it was, but YouTube wasn't even there. And we took a big risk of, let's put in a bunch of money, rent a studio for 2 weeks, plan, I think it was like, I don't know, 250 or so video lessons, and film it all with absolutely no way to regain any of the money from that. We just wanted to give back to the community. And it scared a lot of people because there was, we got not hate mail, but like threats from other drum companies out there, or people starting websites saying, how can you do that? How can you give it away for free? But, so we did Free Drum Lessons. I think that was 2007. We filmed it and we launched it in 2008. And that shifted everything. That was a big pivoting point of our business. We still did DVDs at that time. It was around 2012 where we decided let's rebrand to Drumeo, because at the time we were called Railroad Media, which literally was like we needed to pick a name, and we chose that one because it had a graphic already to it. So it was pretty cheap, pretty quick and easy, but it meant nothing for drummers. So in about 2011, 12, we rebranded to Drumeo, and that's when we decided to do a membership site. That's when I decided, okay, well, I'm going to really take this on full steam and be the community manager and plan the content and, do all that stuff. So it's evolved quite a bit. Now we have around 44 employees here. So there's some people that I forget that are even working here. I'll come up the stairs, I'm like, oh, I haven't seen you in months, right? Especially during COVID when everyone's working from home. But yeah, no, it has shifted. It's changed quite a bit over the years. Sorry for the long-winded answer, man.
No, that's really good. That's really good. I was looking at some of the interviews that you've done in the past, and something that you brought up was setting goals for making content in the early days, how did you decide what you were going to make and why? Because it sounds like the Free Drum Lessons was like a short-term kind of, you weren't full-time at that point, were you? You kind of decided on a short-term plan to make a bunch of content over a couple of weeks. How did you decide what to make and why did you make that stuff?
Well, first off, I've been full-time ever since we kind of started. We've been very fortunate. There has been many ups and downs, though. But the core of us have been full-time since we basically gave it a kick at the can. And it's funny because now we do a lot more market research than ever. We analyze the stats. We analyze what people are searching for. We even go into, the demographic of people watching the videos, how long do they stay engaged on the videos. So like now it's a lot more calculated, but to be honest with you, man, when we first started, it was like a lot of gut feelings as to what we wanted. Jared and I are drummers ourselves. So was Rick, Jared's original business partner at the time. So we just was like, well, what is it that's missing that we want as drummers? And FreeDrumLessons.com was one of those ideas. It's like, I just want a resource of free videos. And we kind of knew we wanted to build a trust. We wanted to make a splash in the scene, and we wanted to get people to trust our brand, which at the time was Railroad Media, I guess Free Drum Lessons. So that was kind of our goal. And with all of our products too, I remember we filmed the drumming system with Mike McAlco, I think it was in 2007, and it did really well. It looked great. So immediately we're like, well, what's next? Well, let's get into jazz and let's get into Latin. And, not a lot of market research on that. But so a lot of the things were just, what did we feel that the audience needed or that the drum community needed more or less. Back about 5-6 years ago, so even probably 8 or 9 years ago, things kind of changed and we started making a lot more calculated decisions. We knew that online streaming was becoming a big thing. We were one of the first companies, not just in the drum space, but just worldwide, that was actively streaming. We used a program called Ustream, I think. And I remember having companies emailing us like, how are you doing this? How are you live in front of people on the internet, right? So we tried to keep innovating and pushing, and we still do that to this day. Even right now we're thinking, what's the next big thing that's going to help students out beyond just media and beyond just lessons? Because right now lessons are everywhere. I mean, if you're a good drummer and you have a good camera and lighting and a good sound, you can create great content, right? So content isn't what the main thing that drummers are looking for right now or these days. So we're always trying to push and innovate, get into technology. We have the Drumeo app now, and we have a couple other tools that we're working on that helps drummers out. So it's partly what do we want as drummers ourselves, and partly what do the drummers in the community want based on the stats, analytics, and where we see them going, I guess.
That's cool. I mean, you can definitely tell one of the great things about Drumeo is that it's by drummers for other drummers. You can tell that you guys are super passionate about drumming. Yeah. Jared's talked a lot about wanting to encourage more people to take up the drums and stay playing the drums. In terms of your own teaching, when did you start teaching other people? What stage were you at when you thought, hey, I can teach other people? And what was that transition like?
Well, I was always helping other drummers out, even before I was with Jared and with Railroad. I would teach other drummers in my church sanctuary. I would actually teach them in the sanctuary, but in my church I would teach others. And so I never really did it full time or to try and make money. It was more of a passion because I just loved it. And when my first couple roles, when we started to kind of smarten up and start creating websites, and my first role was to write articles on how to play drums. And that's kind of where I really started getting into the more educational side. And so from there till about 2007, I was writing article after article after article about techniques and how to play drums and basic beats and musical things. So that kind of kickstarted it. And then when Free Drum Lessons launched, I was tasked with double bass lessons because I was a double bass drummer. And remember, this is the internet. Now you can just type in, hey, who wants to teach double bass stuff? You'll get 1,000 people emailing you back. But back then it was like, oh, Dave, you play double bass. Why don't you teach the double bass stuff? I'm like, sure. And I had a script. And if you watch those old lessons, one of them has over 1 million views. And I'm so sorry for everyone who's watched it because it's like I'm sitting up here, I'm speaking to a camera, and I can only get through maybe one line before I had to turn to the other camera and finish the line. And it was just poor cuts because we're so young.
In this section, we're going to talk about the basics of double bass, including tips on kit setup and basic technique. Now, double bass drumming was originally made popular with progressive rock, heavy metal rock, speed metal, and some punk rock. However, nowadays drummers of all different styles are incorporating it into their playing. Now, this could be for a number of different reasons.
That was the first time I've ever been on video in my life like that. So that kind of was where I started. Where I really started teaching more was when we started Drumeo Edge. That's when I took my teaching a little bit more seriously. The other thing too is I produce most of, if not all, drum lessons that come out on the Drumeo channel. So all of our special guests that we have out, even a lot of Jared's videos, although sometimes he just goes down there and he kills it on his own, but it's always good to have a second set of eyes. So I do a lot of producing of the lesson content as well. And in that, a lot of my study, beyond just practicing drums myself, has been into the psychology of a student. You know, where are the roadblocks? Why do drummers not get better? Why do they give up playing? What is it that causes them frustration? Why can't they pick up things? And really trying to figure that out and create better lessons for anyone who comes on the Drumeo platform. So that's kind of been my evolution of teaching, I guess you can say, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are the top roadblocks that you encounter at the moment from students? What are you battling with?
The biggest thing, I think, is finding the motivation to actually practice. And, you know, Jared makes a really great analogy. I'm sure you've heard it before where, you know, it's not rocket science to get a six-pack. You know, there's so many exercise plans, diet plans, like the steps are actually very, very clear. Do 100 sit-ups a day and don't eat more than so many calories. And chances are you'll get a six-pack. But the question is, I can imagine most people in the world want to have a six-pack. I mean, I do. Who doesn't, you know? So it's like, why is it that no one's doing that? Why is it that so many people just don't? And that's the hurdle right there. It has nothing to do with how you're teaching how to get a six-pack or how you're presenting these new diet fads. It's more of why is it that a person knows what to do and doesn't do it? And I think that's the biggest roadblock because we've taught I don't know how many how to play drums courses. I don't know how many paradiddle lessons, you know, almost to the point where as an educator it gets a little bit deflating when it's like, okay, well, let's do here's a paradiddle beat. It's like it's out there 1,000 times over again. So the hurdle I find becomes more of a, why aren't they practicing? Where do we fall flat there? And I think that's the key. So finding ways to make it fun. Basically, finding ways to put drums as a higher priority than Twitter and Instagram and Fortnite and I don't know what else these kids are playing these days, but you get what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Is it kind of a case that people want instant results as well, or they're comparing themselves to what they see out on the internet, which is amazing stuff, and when they can't get to that level quickly, they kind of give up? Is that the motivational factor at play? Yeah.
I mean, it's a factor of all those. I mean, people want instant results. Of course they do. I talk with students all the time developing technique and, you know, you got to weather those expectations. But also we're in a world where we want instant everything. You know, look at TikTok, for example. TikTok's blowing up and it's like 30-second videos. You know, I thought YouTube was short form videos at like 10 minutes, 8 minutes. I'm like, this is great. I don't have to spend, you know, a half hour. Like traditionally, I don't know, you look like around the same age as me. Like we were brought up in the television era where a show is a half hour, a movie's an hour and a half to 2 hours, right? Now content is like 10 minutes, 8 minutes. TikTok now, even Instagram, 30 seconds, right? So people don't want to sit through long lessons. They don't want to sit through long practice sessions because it's work. And I think when you talk about what the biggest hurdle is, I've said this on another podcast too, it's try to get drumming higher priority and more enjoyable than sitting down for a Netflix binge session. Because that's what I did. I never really thought about, oh, I want to be this drummer. I mean, of course I did. I shouldn't say it that way. I never really compared myself that way in a microscopic level. I never really had exercise books that I had to complete. For me, it was more of, I just wanted to go play drums. And the development happened in that time, but it was like a Friday night, I'm going to be on my practice pad practicing my flams all night. You know, and that was more fun, believe it or not, than going out and hanging out with my friends or going to the bar. And I just made time for it. Right? And I think the key is to try and find that motivation in all students. Because if, for example, like a diet's not going to work unless the person truly understands it and really, really wants it, and it's prioritizing that over the benefit of, hey man, this beer tastes great. You know what I mean? So I think that's the challenge, and it's hard to do over video. It's easier to do when you're in a one-on-one lesson because you can really get the feedback from a student and you can see when they have checked out. You can see when the information's gone over their head. But on video form, you don't get that instant feedback. So it's a constant evolution as to how can you simplify the concepts while still keeping the expectation and the weathering those expectations while motivating and pumping them up at the same time. And I think that's where technology really comes into play to help out in that sense, which I don't think we've even touched the surface of that yet. So exciting things all around, but that is definitely the biggest hurdle, because if you want to practice and you just put the time in to do it, you're just going to get better, right? It's just, there's no question about it.
I think you're starting to make inroads into that, certainly with like the Drumeo Method. So obviously a lot of analytics have gone into planning the Drumeo Method that you're kind of rolling out this year.
Yes.
Has that been like a long-held ambition? Have you always wanted to do something like the Drumeo Method?
You have no idea, man. You have no idea. Like, we could do a whole podcast on the story of the method. Yeah, it's been a long process. We were an all-you-can-eat buffet of drum lessons for many years in Drumeo, and most drummers, I shouldn't say most, a lot of drummers could figure out where to go because they were self-motivating. They knew, okay, well, hey, I just really want to work on some flams today or some fills, or I really like Benny Greb, so I'm going to watch his lessons, or just to find little things to practice and get better. But there's a lot of students that are like, where do I go? Where do I go? What do I do next? And again, too, going back to, it's not so much necessarily about the kind of lessons you're teaching or the content behind the lessons. Sometimes it's just as important how you organize the content and how you make the student feel when they're going through it. Are they feeling like they're getting success? Are they feeling like they're making progress? You can have an hour-long video that teaches the exact same content, but the student might become completely disengaged with it if there's so much things going on, there's so many assignments they have to do. By the end of the video, like, you know what, forget it. But if you break that hour-long content into 10 8-minute videos or 6-minute videos, whatever it would be, you find that it's a lot more consumable. Students get more motivated because they see results. It's like, I can do this, let me do that, and then I'll go to the next one. So the method was kind of an understanding of that mixed with the feedback from the students. And then it was like a 2-year development process, because we went all through, how big do we want the method to be? What's the end result at level 10? We're still going through it to this day. Like, we're like, are you sure we didn't go too far for level 10? And in fact, a funny side story that no one really knows here is we brought Michael Shack out in early 2019 to film a branch of the method, because the method was going to branch off into styles. And he did, of course, EDM music. That's his forte, right? And we finished filming it. We spent so much time in pre-production, flew him out, spent a week here, and the content was great. But I think 4 or 5 months after we had him out, we just completely changed the entire design and of the method. So that content was basically dead in the water. We're gonna be using it in some vein, which you'll see very soon. But
hi everyone, I'm Michael Shack, and welcome to this EDM drumming curriculum.
So the method has changed quite a bit, and it's an ongoing process. Once we release the method, we're going to do some deep analysis of it, and we're going to see where the students slow down and stop, and see if we can overcome those hurdles for them, and just make a seamless step-by-step linear approach to consistently bettering yourself as a drummer, so that by the end of level 10, you feel confident, you're hireable, you have a well-rounded skill set as a drummer, and you also know where to go directionally speaking inside of Drumeo or in your own practice to better certain areas that you want. So that was kind of what we came to with the method, based on a ton of feedback, years of numbers and analyzing the stats, and just talking with the community. So
it's an exciting thing to see, and I'm really interested to see how it develops up to level 10, which hopefully will be end of this year, early next year. You'll be getting to level 10.
Well, that's the plan. We we were supposed to be finished everything already, and the edits were going to take us through to the end of the year. Level 1, January, level 10, I think it was October, we were trying to release it. But then COVID hit. And a lot of the artists that we had lined up to come and film, they live in the US or in Europe, and everything came to a crashing halt. Like, to this day, we're still, like, we're in July, just early July for all you watching. We're in July and we're still waiting on the borders to open. So we've done some definite shifts in how the method is going to look. And we're still hoping to have most of it released by the end of this year. But really, really handcuffed us when we couldn't bring these artists out. For example, John Wooten filmed the majority of the Rudiment videos late last year. We had maybe a dozen videos left for him to film. He had 90 videos, by the way, in the method. And so we didn't finish them all. And we're like, don't worry, man. Come like spring next year, we'll bring you back. We'll finish these videos up. We'll film some other things with you. It'll be fine. So, of course, now COVID hit. So we're stuck with, we've got the majority of our Rudiment videos done by John, and we just can't finish them because he just literally cannot come into our country, and we can't go to the US to film with him. So you might see me in a couple of Rudiment videos until we can get him back in to replace him. So we do have a plan. We are working towards it, and hopefully it won't be too much longer delayed because, I mean, I want to release it. I think it's amazing. I think the students are going to love it. I have a lot of students that are past level 4. They're waiting for level 5 to come out. So yeah, I can't wait.
Going off on a little bit of a tangent, all of the amazing drummers that you've had at Drumeo, and you've done a lot of like one-on-one sessions with them, you've recorded a bunch of like session packs and stuff with all of these amazing drummers. What's the most surprising thing you've learned from any of the drummers that you've been interviewing yourself?
Oh man, that's a good question, Dave. This is really David's percussion discussion, taking a deep dive here. Okay, let's see. The most surprising thing I learned, I mean, I guess when I first started doing this, these were all my idols that I would bring out. And drummers that, you know, I just thought were like almost an unapproachable type of thing. And so I think the biggest thing I learned was these guys are just normal dudes just like us that are just put in more time practicing, you know, basically. And it's great to see that because it makes you realize that they're not godlike, you know, where I used to think when I was younger, I'm like, man, I'll never get to like Dave Weckl status. And you're right, I probably won't, but it's not because I'm not Dave Weckl, it's just because I prioritize my time differently, right? So that was a real cool thing to learn and just to experience, and you hear that from other people, you know, in other fields. I think the other thing is every drummer has their own specialty. You know, it's when you're young, you always think, who's the best drummer out there? And that's an impossible question to answer because every drummer, you know, has their thing that they just do really, really well. And they're either known for that or they're just a go-to guy, you know, like, and that's where I think it kind of allows you, gives you that opportunity to know that, hey, you could still do that. You could be the best this kind of drummer or the drummer who's known for that. Where a lot of drummers, they feel like they just need to be super well-rounded. I want to be the best drummer. Well, that's great, but it can cause a lot of anxiety if you're trying to become the best jazz drummer, the best Latin drummer, the best, Afro-Cuban, the best rock drummer. You know, there's so much to it. But I felt a lot of confidence in knowing, okay, you know what? Maybe I'll just be a hard rock AC/DC drummer, but I'm going to be really, really good at that. Because when we're sitting up there talking about which drummer should we get to teach this, I'm sure like there's thousands that could, but there are a handful that, you know, they're known for that. So you're going to go to them. So that was another cool thing that you just realizations over experience of doing this over the years, I guess. That's a hard question, man. You're giving me hard questions.
Okay, how about this?
Give me an easy one.
So Musora do Drumeo as well as piano and guitario.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What have you learned? Because I know you've been taking piano lessons and you've talked about how taking piano lessons has informed your drum teaching. So how have the other branches of Musora helped you develop Drumeo and the teaching there?
Well, first off, I haven't taken a single piano lesson. I've just been playing and practicing piano. Just like drumming, I never took really any drum lessons, a handful from Jared back in the day. And same with guitar. So I just explore the instrument. Drums was the one I spent the most time on. It's my first love, and I practice that one and play that one more than the other two. But yeah, piano is something that I've just always wanted to play. So about 2.5 years ago now, maybe 3, I just put an hour or 2 in a day, just kind of having fun and all that. But it's helped me quite a bit in just, again, I study the psychology of a student more than the psychology of just drummers in general. And a lot of the hurdles and roadblocks are the same. So it's actually, I would think that it's helped piano and guitar-io out more than it's really helped Drumeo, because I'm allowed to, or I'm able to use what I've learned through the experiences teaching with drummers through Drumeo and apply a lot of the same stuff to piano and guitar-io, down to producing lesson content, like figuring out the best titles for the lessons and where's too far in a teaching concept for the students that are watching it. And on the other side too, I'm able to see what piano students struggle with, especially when it comes to rhythmically as well. And overall, it's just made you or myself, I guess, just a better musician at the end of the day. And that's what I like to see myself as a musician more than a drummer, because I work with the other instruments as well. So definitely has helped out all 3 platforms. And it goes the same with Jared as well too. I mean, the knowledge and the background Jared has just in general has helped huge with piano and huge with guitar-io. So yeah, there's everything kind of shares in Musora. A lot of our teams communicate with each other. Piano will have a great idea, and I'm like, oh my goodness, how come we didn't think of that? And then we'll steal it for Drumeo, and same thing, vice versa. And if you're a member of both, you'll see a lot of similarities. You'll see, for example, all of a sudden Piano, it's going to be starting doing Student of the Week, which is something we know has been a success in Drumeo. It's great to highlight some of the best members, and Piano, it's going to start doing that too. So there's a lot of things that kind of cross paths, and it's been really cool to see being able to share those ideas.
Mm-hmm. And alongside doing all of the video lessons and the producing for Drumeo, do you still have time to play professionally outside of work?
I mean, I guess I have the time. Like, we have freedom here, and this is the thing. Kyle Verdomsky, for example, when we first brought him on, he had a heavy touring schedule, gigging schedule, I should say. And he's like, am I still going to be able to do that? And we encourage that with all of our employees, because we're also players ourselves. For me, my heavy playing days kind of ended when Yuka took that long break. They started having kids, life kind of moved forward. So I took a little bit of a break of playing on a regular occurrence, but I have always played in cover bands. I'm actually right now in a AC/DC tribute band, which is a ton of fun. I get to go there, not a lot of pressure, but it isn't as easy as people think. But just playing AC/DC rock beats, it's fun. And then we play shows, get a couple bucks on the side. It keeps you playing and it keeps you sharp. Plus, I don't know if I'd be able to survive without playing live at least a few times throughout the year, because it's just so much fun. It's like, to me, that's the ultimate way to express and to actually enjoy music, is performing on a stage with other musicians. So that'll never go away. But I just found my time, my personal development time, I found more yields from my work and my practice, I guess, in things that really helped the brand, the students, and the community, more than my personal development of just playing music and playing shows. So I spent more time these days working on that, and just my own enjoyment on the instruments than I do pursuing bands, pursuing gigs and tours and stuff.
Cool. If you're only able to play 2 tracks for the rest of your life, what 2 tracks do you pick?
Island Magic and that's a tough one. Only 2 songs. I really love NoFX and punk rock, man. That's like a love thing for me. But I don't want to be 70 trying to keep up with 200 beats per minute. So I don't know. I'll say some fusion with Island Magic and maybe a classic progressive rock song. Yeah, go with something from Dream Theater from the early days, Scenes from a Memory or something like that, or a Porcupine Tree song. What about you? I want to hear. What are your 2 songs?
Oh, goodness. I would probably say definitely Porcupine Tree Trains.
Such a good song.
Or, if I had to choose another one, maybe something like I love Foo Fighters. I've been doing a lot of Foo Fighters stuff recently. So maybe one of the Foo Fighters tracks like Walk or
okay, yeah,
Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Right.
Classics.
Well, I've seen a lot of you're practicing heavy right now. You're posting videos and stuff. I know you probably said this before on your podcast, but share with me your kind of journey there. When did you really start getting heavy into practicing?
That would probably be around just over a year ago when I joined Drumeo.
Okay.
So yeah, I signed up for Drumeo back in April 2019. Submitted my first student focus in May, and before that, I'd done little bits and pieces with drumming. I started off playing Latin percussion, so conga drumming.
Right.
Probably 10 or 12 years ago. So I started learning congas. And then my teacher for that was a really amazing drum kit player and teacher. So I got him to give me drum kit lessons.
Nice.
That led to me getting an electronic kit. And I kind of self-taught, kind of like, AC/DC, really bad versions of AC/DC, Back in Black, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And just kind of mucked about myself, then saw FreeDrumLessons and started picking up some stuff from there on like the rudiments and paradiddles and single stroke rolls, all that kind of thing. And when I moved to Scotland in 2015, I joined a taiko group. So I started playing Japanese taiko drumming.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that got me into drumming with Harbinger's drum crew. And that's 25 drummers on bass, toms, snare, marching snare, and percussion. And it's a blast. Like
awesome.
It's a full on racket, and it's super fun, and it's my alternative to the gym. So Japanese taiko drumming and Harbinger's drum crew got me really addicted to drumming, and that led to me joining Drumeo a year ago.
Awesome. That's a great story, man. And that's the thing. It's like, it's always interesting to see a drummer's journey as to where they get to and how they get to that spot where, okay, now I'm going to be a kit player and I'm going to be practicing on a regular. And you're posting videos of your progress too, which is great to see. I've always loved watching a drummer progress, especially knowing them for a few years and then seeing the achievements they do. It's so good, man. So keep it up. Keep it up.
Yeah, I'm doing the Independence Made Easy. Jared's got a lot to answer for, so I'm doing the 4-limb Independence at the moment with all that kind of stuff going on. It's just nightmare trying to practice that, but it's good fun.
Yeah, the ongoing joke in the office is the title of that pack is very misleading. The concept is easy. To practice independence is easy, but to actually get it just takes work, right? So I guess Independence Made Simple might have been the better title. Yeah, a lot of fun though.
Have you got anything in particular in the Drumeo method that you're really looking forward to releasing? You don't have to give me details, but is there any one particular area that you're really looking forward to getting out there?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is, and it's already happening in 1 to 4, and that is the ear training. The one missing link that I've seen in almost every curriculum pack, whether it's, School of Rock or whatever, like all these books, Realistic Rock, all these other websites, DVD packs that are out there. The one thing that is always missing is your ear development and training to become a musician. And I think drummers always tend to think about drumming as such a physical thing. They want quantifiable results. How fast can I play this rudiment at? How long can I play this beat for? What songs can I play? If you could play Rush, that means you're a level this, And I actually hate that. Music is an art form, and there's so much more to it than just being able to read notes on a paper and to be able to play fast and to be able to have crazy independence or technique. So I think what I look forward to the most when I complete the method is just bringing more attention to developing your ears. That's why there's a section in every level that really focuses on that. We're talking about basic musicianship skills. What is a phrase? How do you hear and feel phrasing? How do you dissect a song? How are drummers like? There's a common thread from all the pros we've had on Drumeo. They can all play a song without really any practice. They can pick up the song almost first try, play it almost perfectly. And how do drummers do that? And it's nothing to do with their technique. It has nothing to do with how fast they can play their paradiddles. It's musicianship skills, listening, anticipating, feeling time, listening for dynamics, just really training your ear. And when we developed the method, I wanted to make sure that that was a huge point of it. And you'll notice in the video lessons too, we always go back to listen, what do you feel should be played here? Because the one difference between drums and all these other melodic instruments is it's very much guidelines and roadmaps to playing. Whereas if you're a piano player, you need to know the chord progression. You need to know, like, if there's a seventh chord in there, you need to know, what notes not to play, which would sound bad. So there are almost rules, very, very broadly, I'll say that term. But there are almost rules to those instruments, whereas drums, there really isn't. So it's a different approach, and it's heavily reliant on you on your skills as a musician. So that's kind of what I'm most pumped about. It's not a single lesson or a single whatever play along. It's more of a, I hope that this really helps develop that ear for drummers, because then it makes you become a better musician, to make better musical decisions, all the way down to making better decisions on what you put your focus on and practicing, right? So I don't know if you've seen that already in the method. Hopefully you have, but it keeps going on every level. So.
Yeah, that's really good. Like talking about dynamics and phrasing, like you say, anticipating changes in a track. Playing drums to a track is obviously a very subjective thing. If you think drums sound good, then more than likely they sound good. It's kind of like a sound engineering thing. What I was taught when I studied sound engineering was, if you think it sounds good, then it's good. There's no written rule that you have to do it a certain way.
No.
So, yeah.
No, exactly.
Who would you really love to get out to Drumeo that you haven't met with yet?
There's a few. Hal Blaine was one that I was talking to at NAMM before he passed away, and I really, really regret that we couldn't have him on Drumeo. He has such a story to tell. There's a couple current cats like Vinny Caliuto. I mean, he'd be just to pick his brain for a second, But the irony is he everything we stand for, he's against almost. So it's like it's hard to imagine him coming out in some vein. We have a couple ideas. Other guys like Steve Gadd, I'd love to have out on Drumeo. There are some drummers that are still alive and playing right now that I'd love to have, and we're working on it. I can't really say too much more, but we have some ideas, and we have some potential yeses coming down the pipeline and stuff. So very cool stuff. But there are definitely drummers that are still alive that I want to have out, and some that have passed away even recently that I really wish we had a chance to at least let them tell their story on Drumeo. Even some young guys here like Travis Barker. I've always wanted to have him on Drumeo, and we're working hard. We're working hard on that right now. So I mean, there's a list. We have a list. It's an ongoing list, but it's there.
Nice.
Yeah.
So in terms of doing lessons one-on-one with people, which is, you say before, is the thing that you really love doing and that you can't do with video. You can't get that reaction from people, and you can't assess where somebody is in their learning. What are the plans for doing more in-person events? Because you do VIP weeks. You've just started doing the Drumeo Festival. The European Drumeo Hangout was a cool thing last year, and hopefully we'll have one next year that you're going to be coming to.
Yeah.
What are your plans for doing the one-on-one and the group sessions, the in-person sessions?
Well, first let me say I don't enjoy one-on-ones more than I enjoy video. I think I enjoy video more because you get more opportunity. One-on-ones I found were easier because you can spit things out and you get instant feedback from the student, and you can really tailor your curriculum and how you teach them based on, are they actually enjoying it? Are they coming back week after week bettering themselves? And I get a lot of feedback from private teachers that talk about our curriculum or the method, but what they fail to realize is that their approach is always going to be different than a video approach. And all these cats that do video lessons like Mike Johnson, Steven Taylor, Adam Tuminero, Juan Mendoza, they get it, right? So they're just completely different. For us to do live events, I love doing them. I've always loved VIP weeks. I was a big proponent for VIP weeks even when our whole office would be completely turned upside down for like 2 months in the summer, and a lot of our staff hated it, not because they didn't like the people that came out, but because I took over Studio B for 2 months, and we had people running around the office asking, distracting everyone. It was a tough one to keep going, but I was a huge proponent for it. I kept pushing for them every year, and same with the festival. The festival is something we just started doing this year, and to have an actual meetup where we can actually have that face-to-face interaction, I think nothing beats it. That's why you still go and meet your friend when you have something really important to tell them. It's just that interaction on a one-on-one level or in-person level. Well, it's nothing's ever going to beat that. Honestly, right now, everything's up in the air with COVID. I honestly do not think the world as we know it is ever going to be that way anymore. Or as we knew it, I guess you can say. Like I watch all these videos and on Netflix, and they like movies from like 2017, and there's a huge crowd and it's like concert, and everyone's kind of dancing and bumping into each other, and me and my girlfriend look at each other like, man, that's never going to happen again, And so I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know if the festival is going to be the same as it was in February. I don't know if if people around the world are going to be as inclined to come out and do kind of hangs like that. It's really going to be a matter of viewing this pandemic and seeing how the cards fall once everything's done. But I would love to do more. Jared and I have talked about doing across the U.S. tour, where me and him just get in a vehicle and we just go to different hub cities and just do a Drumeo hang. Again, the tough thing is we're a global company, and a lot of our time and energy is best spent reaching as many drummers as we can globally through what we do. So, when we were talking about doing like a US tour, it would be like a month and a half thing. And that's a huge opportunity cost for all the other drummers around the world that don't get to share that experience. It's the same with these conferences. VIP Weeks was another one. Like me and Kyle Radomski and Mike McCalco were literally locked away for about 2 months during VIP Weeks in the summer, focusing on the 10 to 15 students each week that came to the VIPs. During those 2 months, the entire Drumeo community isn't seeing us, and they're the ones that are sacrificing a little bit. So it's an opportunity cost, but I would love to do more of them. And to tell you what that looks like in 2021, it's impossible right now because I don't think anyone knows what it's going to look like in 2021.
Because you're doing a lot more live videos now. You've done a lot of live streaming on YouTube with like the electronic drums, Q&As and all that kind of stuff. So maybe is there something around kind of live streaming video that incorporates more people, that kind of brings groups together online? Can that happen?
It can, and we do still live stream. Like we stream about 4 or 5 times a week on Drumeo. Student focus and multiple Q&As. Once or twice a month, Jared and I will do a live stream on our whole channel, YouTube and Facebook. So we're always reaching out, and there's always an opportunity to come and hang. When we do our live lessons, for example, when we had guests out on a regular, we were doing a live lesson, quite regularly actually. I'd say 2 to 3 times a month. We had a guest out, and we would do a live lesson with them. So there's constantly tons of opportunity for people to come out and hang and chat with us. It's kind of what we started. When we first started Drumeo in 2012, we were live every day almost. I think it was like 5-6 days a week. We were 7 days a week live, and it was great. Things shifted, and we're still live quite often, and so I don't think there's anything different on that sense. I just want to do more live in-person events, bigger, so we can have more drummers there. But right when we started that festival and we were all pumped about doing 2021, COVID happened. You know how lucky we were, by the way, to have the festival in February? Oh, man, two weeks later, and it would have been a completely different story. So we got
very lucky.
Very, very lucky. Yeah, it's crazy, man.
And to wrap things up, what would you hope for in the future? Like, what are you hoping to achieve in the next kind of 3 to 5 years with Drumeo? And what would you maybe ask of the community? Like, what would you like to see happen in the drumming community?
My goal has always been, I want to see every drummer in the world with a Drumeo membership, and not a selfish reason because I want the company to thrive and all that, because we're a for-profit company. But why I want to see that is I want to create a platform that is a no-brainer for all drummers to have enough value, even if it's free. Like we don't know exactly what the future looks like with Drumeo, but if we can create something where if you're a drummer, I need to have my Drumeo membership. It's like Facebook for people our age. It's like that's where you connect with people. It's where you share your progress or your achievements from life. Maybe there's something like that with Drumeo where you're sharing, and we're working on ideas and stuff. But play-alongs, a support group, lessons, a place where you can share your own videos, connect with other drummers, and form bands and stuff. That's kind of really what I want to see. And for the community, I want to see the community. There is some segregation in the drum scene. I want to get rid of that. I just want to see all the negativity go away. We see it more in drums than I do in piano and guitar combined. And not I shouldn't say negativity, but a lot of separation, segregation. In terms of overall, what I want to see is we're really trying to connect with more musicians with Musora. It's not just about Drumeo. It's about piano, it's about guitar, it's about bass, it's about singing, it's about ukulele, it's about, so for us, we want to grow more horizontally and expand our platform to incorporate more instruments, and then eventually kind of unify those in a way where it's more of a family of, you're a piano member? Oh, I'm a ukulele member. You want to jam? You want to share some, you know what I mean? Like it's to create that community of musicians rather than separating them each, and just overall building that community of musicians around the world, if that makes sense. And that's been a goal of ours since we started. And I remember every time we have our quarterly meetings or our yearly visionary meetings, it's like, what's your goal? Well, every drummer in the world has a Drumeo membership, even if it's a free account. Doesn't matter. We want to give the community enough value and tools and make learning easier, make drumming more enjoyable, and motivate and inspire non-drummers to become drummers. Because if we don't do that, and if we don't encourage more kids to pick up sticks, then the drum scene is just going to go like this. And then 20 years from now, drumming might be one of those, traditions like blacksmithing or something, right? It's like there's only a few that are still practicing the craft. Everything else is all programmed and digitized and all that, right? So we want to fight that, and we want to really encourage more drummers, so it goes like this. That's a long answer, man. A lot of these answers I've been giving you are long, so I really apologize, buddy.
That's all good. I mean, you're certainly achieving a lot of that with Drumeo already. It's been an amazing journey, and something that I've really loved about Drumeo is that social networking aspect. So I don't know if you're planning to kind of like overhaul the forums in future and create that kind of social media platform for drummers to share a lot more. But it's a really valuable thing that you're doing. And, all I can say is I look forward to the rest of the Drumeo method. I look forward to getting my certificate after level 10 and
Nice.
Hopefully coming out and seeing you at some point in person in the future at a Drumeo festival or at a European Drumeo hang, or wherever that might be, whatever that might look like after COVID. I can't wait to jam with you in person and all the other great guys at Drumeo. So let's drink to that. I mean, hopefully we'll see each other very soon.
I love it, man. You've been great, a great member. You've actually helped us out with video edits as well. So I would love to meet you in person at some point. And yeah, thank you so much. I'm glad we were able to chat. Glad you're enjoying the method too. Can't wait to release. I can't wait to film and release the last, I guess it would be 6 levels. And as soon as COVID clears up, I'm going to get on a plane and I'm going to Europe. And I'm going to meet with you, whether you like it or not, man. I'll come knock at your door.
Excellent. I look forward to that. I will see you soon. Thank you very much for your time, Dave. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I will catch you on the other side. Cheers, buddy.
Bye-bye.